A classic tier list topic back on the channel, guys. We are talking about World of Warcraft classes, which ones are the best. Today we are talking about historical ranks of these classes. If you amass how good these classes have done just over history, not specifically how good they are right now in World of Warcraft Dragonflight 10.1 Embers of Neltharion, we are talking about how good these classes are or have been over the course of World of Warcraft's history. Now, I compiled this information with ChatGPT, which was really a test of the AI bot's capability of amassing gaming information from history. And for that reason, it didn't really have anything for me on, where is it? On Evoker here, so too new. Yeah, because ChatGPT, if you didn't know, it only goes back to 2021. It did not know anything about the Evoker class. In fact, when I asked, it said there is no class called the Evoker. And I was playing around with the bot, trying to learn kind of how it works. I told it there was, and they said, oh, well, there may be, but my information only goes to 2021. So I don't want to ramble too much, but yes, this information is compiled by ChatGPT, which is mostly just kind of an interesting look at it. We'll see if we agree with the results. First of all, down in the, let me count here, make sure I have enough tiers here. ChatGPT was very, very serious about not putting any class too low here. We have 6 ranks here. And it would also change it up every time. So I don't think they put any in C tier overall. The lowest 3 that they had, though, was Warrior, DH, and Monk. And I do know that Monk and Warrior have definitely had some expansions and some patches where they have been fairly weak, especially a couple of their specializations. But Demon Hunter, I feel like, has been pretty good in general since Legion. High mobility, high survivability, but perhaps not the best DPS. ChatGPT was taking into account both PvP and DPS, as well as how all of the specs for a class perform. So, for example, if Warrior DPS was fantastic, both Fury and Arms, but its tanking spec for a little bit was not so great, that would hurt its overall ranking. So ChatGPT went ahead and put this Warrior being the worst of the original 9 classes in the history of the game, down there with Monk and Demon Hunter. Now, originally, ChatGPT put Demon Hunter, Monk, and also Death Knight down here by themselves in C tier, but I figured out that was because it was basically giving them a 0 for classic WoW and the expansions before they were ever introduced. It was kind of giving them a negative result for that. So we worked it out a little bit. B tier, we have Warrior, Demon Hunter, and Monk. B plus tier, a little bit better here. We're going to be looking at classes which have consistently had some kind of niche, consistently been good in some regards, but not necessarily good overall or good in every regard. We have Druid, we have Shaman, and we have Death Knight. So Druid, Shaman, Death Knight, 2 original classes there. Interesting that we have Druid and Shaman being classes that are very, very difficult to play. Excuse me. Shaman could only be played by Horde back in the day, and Druids could only be played by 2 different classes. So that's potentially what I'm trying to say there, is 2 classes that very, very exclusive to play. You had to play a very specific race to play them. Whereas Death Knights here, coming out the last of their expansion races, ranked pretty low here. Potentially too low, but I do know there has been some expansions where Death Knight really just hasn't been it. And the same you could probably say about Druid and Shaman. Druid having 4 specs. There are times where, all the specs are great except Feral, or all the specs are great except Balance, and I think that would hurt its results overall. Shaman having times where Elemental wasn't so great, or having times where its DPS overall wasn't great, but it was good in PvP. So always some niche use for these classes, but not always the powerhouse that we're going to see higher up on this list. Our next ranking here, we have Priest and Paladin. These are classes that have pretty much always had some type of niche, always done something very, very well, usually doing a few things very well. With Priest specifically, you usually have multiple options to heal, and then in recent expansions, Shadow being a bona fide and very good DPS spec, specifically right now good for specific instances. Paladin as well, very diversified in the things that it can do, so usually always is able to do something good and other things about average. Moving up into our A plus tier, we have three classes which have pretty much just always done things well, but maybe you have had slips-ups here and there, maybe have had a spec or two that didn't always perform, but in general has always been used for specific reasons. We have Hunter, which some people get mad about, but Hunter always can do things with his pet. Rogue, some people again will get mad about that, but Rogue always able to do things in PvP and usually has pretty good DPS with at least one of their specs. And Warlock always has that utility, always being brought to raids over the years, even if it was not always the top DPS, though it usually is. And then that puts Mage up in S tier. Mage, as ChatGPT described, the class that has pretty much always just been great, always top tier DPS in some way and with one of its specs, and also a fantastic class for PvP with its CCs and whatnot for leveling for all aspects of the game. So what do we think, guys, about these rankings? What do we think? How did ChatGPT do in terms of ranking the classes of World of Warcraft historically? Remember, we're taking into account all of the expansions combined overall. Did it miss any? Did it hit any? Let me know in the comment section down below. And let me know if there's anything else you think an AI bot could amass and whether or not they'd be right or wrong about those assessments. With all that said, guys, thank you for watching, and have a great day.